what do you see as the future for cancer?
Well, so what I think is that AI has a very big role to play. I think where AI will specifically help is bringing doctors onto a single platform, have discussions, argue with each other, but then at the end of the day, agree with each other's diagnosis, and then have a consensus. So I think the future is bright, but it's more open-ended. But for now, the problem is disagreement. How do we cope up with that?
Sure.
So
And eventually there'll be enough data.
exactly.
Okay, welcome back to the Tech Jobber podcast. Amazing guest today. Everyone's talking about AI, how it's going to make your life easier, how it's going to take your job. But today's guest is using AI to potentially save your life. So we have a lot to talk about. He's doing amazing stuff in the field of breast cancer diagnosis and misdiagnosis. We have Akash Parvatikar. I say that right?
Yes, that's perfect.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me here.
Yes. So your background is incredible. Ph.D. in computational biology. Let's talk about early life. What kind of drew you to AI in general?
Yeah. So just a quick background. So I got my bachelor's specializing in electrical engineering. So I was building robots as a hobbyist. And then I got into master's in information science at University of Pittsburgh. And that's when, I entered US to pursue my higher education. And I was a part of the research group at University of Pittsburgh that was working on very interesting problems like drug discovery, cancer diagnosis, and very interesting stuff.
What type of stuff in cancer diagnosis?
It was breast cancer diagnosis.
Okay. So it's breast cancer
Some early work was done in that space, but I was working in the field of drug discovery, where I was trying to analyze how proteins function, and build tools to analyze that for better drug discovery. This was during my master's. And with that, I landed with an internship at the Oak Ridge National Lab, which is Department of Energy and Science. And I spent a good 6 months there working on the same field, good projects, and be in this environment where there are a very brilliant scientists. And, that piqued my interest to continue pursuing research. And that's how I landed with a PhD admit from the joint Carnegie Mellon and Pitt Medical School. And that started off my journey in the field of cancer diagnosis, I would say, and AI came along the way.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that PhD. Obviously you probably had some great job offers when you just had the master's.
Yeah.
But what kind of what were you looking at, and what was the decision to continue the education there?
Yeah, well, I think my internship at Oak Ridge National Lab had to play a very pivotal role in making my decision to pursue PhD. And I was more motivated by the cause towards cancer diagnosis because so my grandfather was a victim of misdiagnosis early on, and this is something which many people face even today. You go to the doctor and it gets diagnosed, but unfortunately it's not diagnosed correctly. So I had some personal reason because of which I was motivated. So I think for me it was not the doctorate or PhD that motivated me to continue doing research, but it was the problem that was presented. Like there was this opportunity to be in a research group because I did my master's from University of Pittsburgh, so I was aware of the kind of research happening at the lab. So I wanted to sort of take it forward and understand the field in detail as to what is cancer, why it's so difficult to diagnose certain stages of cancer. So that was my motivation, and I believed that PhD would be the right path because if it's industry, I might not make as much of a good impact. As I would, when I pursue a PhD, and I think until now it's going on a good track.
So, real quick, you say misdiagnosis of cancer.
Yeah.
How does that kind of manifest itself? You don't really hear, I mean, you know it's happened. Apparently it's more common than we know.
Yeah.
How does that actually come about? There's a benign tumor they believe is malignant, or like what, they think the cells are bad and they're not?
Yeah, so I think I can talk about breast cancer, which is what I specialized during my PhD. So yes, there is like invasive cancer and pre-invasive cancer. So the confusion lies in the pre-invasive, which is like the most like notorious category where there is a lot of confusion. Is it like a certain stage, and the treatment options are different. If it's invasive, if it has metastasized already, then it's comparatively easier to identify. But if it is the pre-invasive, that's where the confusion stems from.
Okay.
So, and that's why in this category, there is a lot of misdiagnosis happening. In breast cancer, lung, prostate, whichever cancer you pick, there is this subjectivity. Not just like, with the same pathologist, but if you try to show the same image to different pathologists, they don't agree with one another. So.
Wow. Okay. So how would this, give me an example of what would happen. So someone looks at the cells, they say, okay, this thing's going to spread. We need to do the full mastectomy and go full chemo. Or another guy's saying, we could just remove this area and we're good. Is that pretty much in layman's terms?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the diagnosis is directly related to what a treatment the physician has to do. So, exactly, like if it's misdiagnosed, that, gets down to a stage wherein the patient gets wrong treatment because the diagnosis was different. And that is quite prevalent even today. But then I think most of the reason why this happens is because cancer is such a complex disease, and it's very hard to come up with rules for diagnosis, and maybe we can talk more today. But overall, I think the PhD helped me understand the core of why it's an issue to rightly diagnose breast cancer, which is what I worked on. But same for other cancers as well.
Wow. Okay. All right. So then you make the decision to continue the research, go through the PhD. Why don't you go through that process? Obviously, you're getting papers published as you're going through it. How many years was that? How difficult was that? Let's go into that.
Yeah. So I started my PhD in 2018, and I completed in like 3.5 years, which is like quite quick compared to what other students typically take. And I think thanks to COVID, because we were locked down.
Sure.
And so instead of like going out, traveling and having fun, I thought, okay, let me just sit down, stay focused, get the papers out and graduate. So it was a great experience. And I think along the way, yes, it was publishing papers and in the field, that I did my research in, but it is also to get like an exposure to, by talking to the pathologist, what exactly the problem is. And I think it was a lot of communication than me sitting in my cubicle, reading previous papers, blogs and videos and doing my own research. But it was like, very communicative with the PI, with the doctors, because I think it's important to keep in mind whom we are doing the research for. And in my case, it's the pathologist. So there is no way I can escape from not talking to the pathologist, like as to what problems they face and what exactly they need the tools for and how will that help. So I thoroughly enjoyed my journey of talking to the pathologist at UPMC hospital along with my PI. So sure, papers came naturally with the research that I did, but I think overall the experience was fantastic.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about, obviously, I mean, you're interesting because you're combining the medical knowledge with the AI knowledge. Obviously, most people have one or the other. Where does the AI come in? Where did you, so you said the master's information systems, you were learning some of this stuff, some of these tools. What did you learn exactly?
Oh, well, I think, of course, I got my master's in information science. So some of the core AI knowledge I got during my master's, but it was actually in my PhD when I had to take like very difficult courses at Carnegie Mellon for, learning AI from a statistical standpoint, which is where my knowledge and understanding the core technology in building AI sort of strengthened. So that was during my PhD. And
Which were those? Was it Python, R?
no, so that was the course was called statistical machine learning
Okay.
at Carnegie Mellon, which is a very tough course. So it's not just the application of AI algorithms using Python, but it's also to understand the mathematics that goes behind it
Wow.
when the algorithms are built. So it was quite brutal while taking these courses, but I think it strengthened my core knowledge of how algorithms work and how they're applied in the real domain. It tremendously helped me in my PhD because I built my own explainable AI framework for detecting breast cancer, which actually was very close to talking the language of a pathologist, so that they could understand what the AI is doing. But I think to do that, having very in-depth knowledge of AI is very critical.
Okay, so yeah, and obviously your medical knowledge was so crucial there to be able to speak. But you mentioned explainable AI.
Yeah.
That's kind of all over your profile. I mean, is it just like it sounds, like AI that you can explain to dummies like me, or what is it?
Well, I think partly yes, but
Okay.
so the thing is with explainable AI for like my domain, which is cancer diagnosis. So AI is often thought of as a black box where people don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Now, when it comes to medical diagnosis, for clinical adoption, it has to pass regulatory approvals like FDA. Now, to get that, you cannot come up with an AI which gives like 95% accuracy on these images without telling me what are the failure modes. Like, when does the AI not perform well? So that's critical. But not just that, when the AI is doing its job, it's also important for it to tell, what exactly it's doing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if I have an AI to detect breast cancer, I want the AI to tell me that, okay, these are the regions that I'm looking at, and this is what I'm picking, and I'm putting it together to come up with a decision. Now, we go back to the doctors and compare what the AI is doing. And we ask the doctors, would you do the exact same thing? Would you pick all these features, put it together for your diagnosis? Sure, if there is a significant overlap, then the AI is explainable. But then if there is no overlap, if the doctor says, I don't see these features at all, because it doesn't make sense for diagnosis, then I think the AI is just getting it like a hit or a miss.
Gotcha. Okay, so it has to vibe with at least
Exactly.
some of the doctors.
Exactly.
Now, what has been the pushback, or has there been pushback from them that you've seen so far?
The doctors?
For the doctors,
Yeah.
are they uncomfortable with this? Do they love it as a tool? Does it kind of take some of the heat off them?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
So I think half and half, because there are problems within the field of diagnosis where they are facing significant challenges in detecting few features or in quantifying them, like counting cells, and it takes a lot of time to do that, and accurately it's quite a challenge. So definitely, like, AI is sort of like helping them to do those detection and quantification, so which they are liking it. But again, it's the confidence or trustworthiness in the AI, which is still an issue, wherein how much can you trust the AI, right? So we can't say, okay, we cannot completely rely on it. So what's happening now is in this field, assistive AI tools are getting built. So what that means is that like a Tesla, right? At the end of the day, you're still a driver, but you have all these tools to avoid accidents.
Gotcha.
So similarly, these assistive AI tools are there at disposal of the pathologist to use it, but then it's at their discretion if they would like to continue using it. But there still needs to there's a long way to go before a full adoption can take place, because some of the pathologists, we're talking about like 20 years experience, 25 years of experience, like they're set in the way in which they diagnose, right? The expert doctors in US, worldwide. So for them, I think coming out of what they have already practiced in the past and now using AI to help them, it's quite a challenge. And they might have they might be a little bit more conservative because they would have got trained from from real data set way more than what the AI would have got trained on. So they are the experts in the field, right? But I think current pathology trainees and all are getting trained to use AI and as part of their curriculum and see how could you use this as a tool to just help you in what you're doing and do a better job.
Okay, so but just quick. I mean, how many total people are actually focused in this space? I mean, are you like one of 10 people in the country doing this, or I mean, is it a handful? Is it a lot?
No, definitely not. Not one of the 10. So I think just a step back. So digital pathology, the field that I'm in right now, it's an emerging field. So only in 2017, FDA approved using digital scanners for diagnosis. Up until then, it was all microscopes for diagnosis. In 2017, FDA approved they can use digital scanners, and that paved the way for technologies like, that uses image analysis and AI and all that. So it's a pretty new field, I would say. And what's happening is digital pathology is on one road and AI is on another road. So somewhere they're trying to marry between these two fields, right?
Right.
So it's like it's running in parallel. Like this field is picking up very fast. People are seeing like, what are the advantages of digitizing pathology labs, and now AI is becoming so popular.
Right.
But then the speeds are different. So somewhere they're trying to match between these two. So yeah, for that, like what's happening is many of the AI scientists who might have got trained in only AI are also shifting towards digital pathology to build algorithms. And some of them are getting specialized in digital pathology research who are also building AI. So like I fall in that category.
Yeah.
So people who are specializing in AI, they have to understand the domain knowledge before they can build any tool, because it's very hard to seek for adoption of AI if you don't have the domain's knowledge.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's not numbers. At the end of the day, it's the patient's lives that that's stake at.
Right.
So I think to do that, you need to understand like, how the doctors diagnose first and how your tool will help the doctor. You need to get that sort of like, bridge the gap of understanding before developing the tool.
And, with you, it's incredible because, you're going to see a lot of people get into the AI field after January 2023 when OpenAI exploded. Everyone was using ChatGPT.
Yes.
You started years before that. So what kind of drew you to that? Obviously, the misdiagnosis part I get, but what about the AI part?
Yeah. So I think what I always tell is like, it's problem first, AI next. So don't chase AI like, for everything. Identify what the problem is in your domain. And if AI is a solution, so be it.
Yeah.
It need not be just cancer diagnosis. It could be retail or real estate or whatever it is. Identify what the problem is and then use AI as one of the solutions for that. So in my case, I understood the problem of cancer diagnosis, which could not be solved by basic image analysis that existed prior. And we had to use these state-of-the-art AI technologies, or if they did not exist as a Ph.D., I had to develop my own algorithm using machine learning and artificial intelligence to sort of like, address that problem. So in my case, it was not any sophisticated deep learning that I applied. I chased like, cancer diagnosis, machine learning and cognitive psychology, because I wanted to understand how a human brain thinks and makes decisions.
Gotcha.
So I took psychology classes to understand, what creates confusion, bias in a human's mind, because pathology is all about decision making. So I had to get in-depth understanding of all these three things to come up with an AI based solution. But then, I wasn't drawn towards AI, but I think AI sort of like helped in addressing that problem, and which is what we are seeing, rampant across multiple fields.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you complete the PhD. Anything else there? Obviously, you published a number of papers, like we said. Did the tough work. You said, what is it, number 2 or 3 in the world in
For AI, yes.
for AI? Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, so you get out. What was obviously you could have worked anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. You had your options after that.
Yeah.
What made you choose Histowiz, your current company?
Yeah, I think one thing that I realized while doing PhD was, access to data and access to experts who are annotating their data, who are the pathologists, right? So Histowiz was positioned in a unique way that, it's a histology lab who produce high quality data set, and they have unlimited access to pathologist network. For analysis, for telepathology, and building AI, and they didn't have an AI team, so it gave me, and I love challenges, so so that's why I joined Histowiz to sort of get into the company, understand what the company does, and then build AI solutions that caters to the research market. So at Histowiz, we are in the preclinical space. We are not in the clinical diagnostics.
Okay.
So our customers are from pharma, biotech, and academic institutions. So this gave me a chance to do some, impactful work, and help the researchers out there.
Yeah. So what's the day-to-day like for you? You're chief AI scientist. Was that your role?
I'm the lead AI scientist at Histowiz, and as a day-to-day, I not only build AI that gets published on our platform, which is called Pathology Map, but I also directly talk to our customers, researchers who and take their feedback, show them the platform, how they could use it in their day-to-day research activities. And I also, collaborate with the executive team to, model how the business strategies look like for the platform. So I handle almost every part of their digital platform at Histowiz. So it's not just the AI that I build, but of course that's the major part of my job, but not just that, because I'm also responsible for not just building AI, but making sure the AI gets into the market and it's actually helping customers out there. So it's like you sell what you build, right?
Right. So you're also a product manager as well.
Yes, exactly.
Correct. Okay. So you own the product, and you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges you're facing there right now?
Well, I think so. Contrary to PhD, where it was all research, algorithms, and articles and all that, but in the industry, it's slightly different. Of course, even in PhD, I was talking to the pathologist for feedback, and here it's the customers that I talk to. But I think one challenge that I regularly face is that if we build a solution, how much will it actually impact the research community? Yes, we can get the surveys out, have these discussions and all that, but actually, how will it get streamlined into their day-to-day analysis workflows? And how will that does that fit? It's not just about your performance of AI, but it's also about other things like deployment and how do you interact with it, regulatory compliances, say if we are talking about large pharma companies, how amenable they are to sort of install Histowiz AI apps to their workflows. So we have to deal with all of that, and and then actually plan the budget for that.
Oh, wow.
So it's a huge undertaking, but I think Histowiz has been tremendously helpful in sort of guiding me in the right direction. And of course, we are a team, and we want to make a bigger impact to the research community. And I'm getting the right help at the right time. So.
Yeah, and they're only concerned with breast cancer. Histowiz?
No, so breast cancer was during my PhD research and at Histowiz. They're in the preclinical research space, and we deal with multiple organs, not just breast.
Okay.
It's lung, prostate, brain. Like we deal with several different organs and not just breast.
Yeah.
That we cater to. So it's wide.
Yeah.
Like now we just expanded the scope of work.
And what has been, obviously, different organs, different challenges. I mean,
Yeah.
was breast the most difficult breast cancer to? Seems like that had a lot of the misdiagnosis, like you were saying.
Yes.
Do others face similar rates of misdiagnosis, or?
Well, when we talk about like prostate cancer or lung cancer, even they face certain misdiagnoses. But I think so with the pre-invasive breast cancer, I wouldn't say misdiagnosis, but I would say disagreement among the pathologists is like 52%. So this was an article that was released in 2015. So the diagnostic discordance is close to 52%. So what that means is that 52% of the time the pathologists don't agree with each other. Now you can imagine what that means is they come up with different diagnoses. So who is right, who is wrong, it's still an open-ended question. But just like for breast cancer, the same holds good for other types of cancer as well.
Yeah.
That's what that's what we are seeing even at Histowiz.
Yeah. And what do you see as the future of cancer diagnosis, misdiagnosis? Eventually, more people will be using kind of the AI models that you're creating and others are creating.
Yeah.
What do you see as the future for cancer?
Well, so what I think is that AI has a very big role to play. I think where AI will specifically help is bringing doctors onto a single platform, have discussions, argue with each other, but then at the end of the day, agree with each other's diagnosis and then have a consensus. So, I think AI will play a good role in that because it'll help detect the features, and they could use the same doctors to build the AI for annotations. So that'll bring them to a common platform where, previously they were not agreeing with each other because they felt that, these features play a less important role versus the others. But I think AI will help sort of like, bridge that disagreements between the doctors first, and maybe establish like clear rules. Like, okay, if an image has X percentage of this feature, I think we need to diagnose as this category. So those rules don't exist. It's a gray zone. I would say it's amorphous. There are no clear guidelines for that. But I think AI will help in that direction. And of course, AI will also help in detecting maybe new features which the doctors did not look at it at all till today. Because AI might look at like multiple layers where the human eyes might have completely missed those patterns, and that is where Gen AI and all of that is coming into fruition. So I think the future is bright, but it's more open-ended. But for now, the problem is disagreement. How do we cope up with that?
Sure.
So
and eventually there'll be enough data.
Exactly.
Because the AI can produce just mountains of data overnight.
Exactly. So
and eventually, you would think there'll be less disagreement going forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, real quick, you say the data sets.
Yeah.
Are you talking? Oh, you said the microscope. So they take a like that would be just the biopsy microscopes. The AI is analyzing the cells in the biopsy microscopes.
Yeah. So once you take the biopsy, it'll be put on a glass slide in like a block of a tissue, so which is usually analyzed under a microscope. But now you put them in these scanners that takes high resolution images.
Oh. Okay.
Like a camera.
Yeah.
But very high resolution. We're not talking about like 2x or 3x, but it's like a 40x resolution. So now if I have to like print out the entire tissue image from a printer, it's like close to a size of a soccer field. It's huge. Wow. So now you're trying to find like objects on that soccer field, like like a needle in a haystack situation. Sure. So those are high resolution pictures, which now the doctors could instead of seeing it under a microscope, they can blow it up on like big screens like this, and maybe like zoom in, zoom out, toggle between spaces and all. So that's what they would do when you digitize the slides and look at them on the screen.
Yeah. And so your AI is analyzing those.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
Exactly. And so each image is like, it's a very high resolution image. So the image size could vary from anywhere between hundreds of megabytes to several gigabytes.
Wow.
So that's one image.
Yeah.
Now you can imagine if you digitize several of those images, say the entire hospital data, we're talking about petabytes of information.
Yeah.
So which is a considerable portion of the world's data till today.
Sure.
So it's going to be huge.
And it would take an army of doctors to analyze all that.
Exactly.
Where if you can get the AI right,
Exactly.
boom, you come in the next day and
Yeah.
everyone knows. Oh, okay.
Absolutely. And also, just to bring another point here that, not just US, but even other countries are facing a shortage of pathologists. So that's declining too. So from a recent report, the number of pathologists, are declining. So, so the AI will also help in that sense, wherein because of a greater burden on the pathologists to sign out the cases, because there are very few out there comparatively. So because of the burden, it might also be a cause for misdiagnosis, because you need
Right.
to say sign out 15 cases a day.
Yeah.
And previously you were just doing say 5 or 6, but somewhere the efficiency might dip for obvious reasons. So I think AI will also play a part in sort of addressing that challenge of acute shortage of pathologists that we will be seeing in the coming decades.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. So that's, yeah, I mean, it's perfect timing for AI with the shortage, because yeah, I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
Human can only look at so many of those slides, right?
Exactly.
And they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's discuss the job market for AI a little bit. Obviously that's our thing here at the Jobber Podcast.
Yeah.
Now, if someone was not going to go through the landmine field of the Ph.D. route, what would you recommend? What technologies you say definitely get a background in this, focus on this, maybe
Yeah.
look, what do you think?
Okay, so I have two answers here. I think the first answer is focus on what domain you want to get into. Brainstorm with yourself, with friends, and try to focus on which domain would you like to get into. Is it going to be medical imaging? Is it going to be retail? And sort of just try to understand what's your interest. Maybe you can do multiple projects across these domains real quick and try to get a feel for it. So that's one thing. It's crucial, and I'll come back to this point later on. The second point is, again, keep it simple. Focus on the basics. There are tons of tutorials and video teachers and all that you can leverage. Certifications are really helpful in that sense. So get that, and of course, everybody is doing it, and that's the main that's the bare necessities of getting into the AI market is getting those certifications, and but
Which
I
ones do you
would say,
recommend? Which certifications?
I think there are really good ones on Udemy or Coursera, so that's really good. And I think there are also good ones. I came across your post just yesterday of video certification
Yeah.
to get into machine learning job. I think I just looked it up and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Springboard Bootcamps.
yeah, I think that's really good as well, because now we are talking about not building AI but deploying AI as well. So that's important. But I think again, what I would focus on is every domain will have different needs for AI. For example, if it is medical imaging, it is mostly detection, diagnosis, and all that. So sort of specialize in that area and get more knowledge in that. If it is other fields, then it might need different, AI prerequisite. So that's why I would say, try to sort of brainstorm with yourself as to what domain you want to get into. And once you get those basic certification, then try to specialize in more, actually.
Yeah, because I think that's a great point, because the playing field will be leveled. Everyone,
Exactly.
it'll sort itself out. What are the best certs to have?
Yeah.
What are the best technologies to have?
Yeah.
Right now, like Python, R, kind of those type of things.
Yeah.
The machine learning certs, everyone's going to have those. So what's going to set you apart is the industry knowledge.
Exactly.
Which obviously you have, right? Cool. Okay. So anything else? Any advice for young people? That's most of our audience looking to get into tech. Obviously, you would tell them to look at AI fields, of course. But why don't you just give some advice to people?
Yeah. So I think one advice that I would give is focus on the fundamentals of AI. Don't get bogged down on doing your projects quickly, trying to run the open source code and getting the projects out, and focus more on the fundamentals than on application. So what I mean by that is getting things working is important, and you might do a machine learning project on a specific application, and in your mind what you would want is getting that application of AI, but the learning will only come when you understand, okay, why one algorithm works versus the other does not. So having that knowledge takes a little bit more time, and you need to get the fundamentals very strong, and projects are good, but also try to understand why one tool works really good versus when it does not. That's what will build you as a cross-disciplinary knowledge, wherein now you understand, these kinds of data sets, I know what tool to apply.
Yeah.
It's more like a hammer and a screwdriver, right? So you exactly know when to use a screwdriver, when to use a hammer. One might not work well for the other one in some cases. So focus on the fundamentals, keep it simple, try to get the core understanding of the statistics and linear algebra. Of course, it's all basics, but you need to get that before you talk about deep learning, Gen AI.
Sure.
But of course, but once you get this, going to the next stage is quite quick. It evolves. It's exponential. Initially you might start off very slow, but in no time, learning is exponential.
Yeah.
So you can go really fast. So.
And just out of curiosity, what AI tools do you use personally, or any public ones you use professionally as well? But ones that we've heard, you an OpenAI guy, you a Claude AI. I've been using Pi.ai that I learned about. I mean, what do you use?
I use ChatGPT.
You just use ChatGPT?
ChatGPT for I think every single day.
Wow.
For different things that I work on. And the thing is, now it has come to an extent wherein I think on ChatGPT. Whatever's coming, I just type it out.
Yeah.
And use the OpenAI functionalities to get me the result. Again, I have seen a big workflow boost in my work when I use these softwares. But I don't have any favorites. But this is what I use because it's getting the work done.
Sure.
And of course, if it does not, then it won't take me a second to shift to other platforms.
Right.
So I think but yeah, I think I use that. But for my own AI development, it's just basic Python that I use, and some of the Keras and TensorFlow workflows for developing deep learning algorithms. So that's still there. But of course, it will evolve as we go. So.
Yeah, and I'm always preaching Python, because there's so many Python jobs and there's just not people qualified to do it. So if that's all that comes out of this podcast, I get people to learn Python, that would be great. And go back to the ChatGPT, it's the more you use it, the better you get at pulling the right type of data and exactly what you need.
100%.
So I think that what's it called? The prompting.
Yeah.
It's a skill that you learn over time.
Prompt engineering.
Yeah, the prompt engineering, and it can be so useful. When you really learn how to do it, it can be super useful.
Exactly.
Right.
And also, I think one of the underrated skills is figuring things out quick. And that's not a technical skill, but it's a very crucial to have, especially now because we have so much of information at disposal. But learning the skill to get it to surface, to use it for your problem as quickly as possible, is very important, because back in the days there was like very limited access to knowledge, access to resources, but now we have everything at the fingertips. But then figuring it out, like, and less reliance on other things, and just being independent and figuring it out yourself very quick is the key right now, especially with access to Claude, ChatGPT, and such tools.
Yeah.
So,
And what's your best guess, I don't know, 5 years from now, what the landscape looks like as far as with AI integrated more into society? Is it going to be vastly different? Is it going to replace some jobs, create new ones? I mean, what do you think?
yeah, so I think it will definitely replace some jobs, but I think that new jobs will be created, and I think, we will see how that goes. And as the world evolves, I think we will always have challenges trying to optimize few things and all that. But I think we will adapt. Back in the days, like, there was like typewriters, right? But then we evolved. Before that, there was pager, then typewriters,
Sure.
and then the eras of, like, personal workstations and laptops. So, of course, people who were employed as typists and typewriters were replaced by, those who could use workstations, right? But I think AI is an important skill to have for each one of us, and for some of them, not for all of them, they need to understand the basics. But if your job requires you to apply AI just the right moment and the right, way, that should be good.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, this was awesome, enlightening conversation. Obviously, the field you're in is personal to a lot of people that are going to be watching this. My good friend Kate Collodi is she's in the fight of her life, and she's going to come through. But I just want to thank you for all you've done and all you will do in the future for misdiagnosis and correct diagnosis for women.
No, thank you so much, Chris. For giving the opportunity to talk about it, so that more people are aware as to what's happening in AI, cancer space, and how these two are playing together to do something very good and useful for the society.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hope you guys got a lot out of that. Learn your Python, like I always say, and we'll catch you guys next time.